Right, morning, everybody. Welcome. Another Monday morning. 2020 almost gone, disappeared on us. I don't know what happened to 2020. I think it just vaporized somewhere along the way. So today we're talking about the hymn of the Twitter troll. Not too sure where we're going with this one today, but it could be very interesting. Ed, I don't know if you want to kick us off just by reading it with the right intonation and all the rest of it, and we get going with that.
I'm not sure it'll be the right intonation, but I thought I'd just also say how it happened, because I won't say what it means to me. Perhaps I can come and say that afterwards. But every morning I listen to the Today programme on BBC Radio 4. It's a news and views programme. And at 10 to 8, they have a slot called Thought of the Day, in which they invite a religious leader of some sort. It's always a different denomination, to give a sort of 5-minute spiritual talk. And they had a Church of England bishop on there. And I wasn't particularly listening because I think I was doing a washing up at the time. And I heard this phrase, tweet of sages. And for some reason, it went round in my mind. And at the same time, the hymn Rock of Ages popped into my mind as well. And I think it was Trevor Carty who sort of talked about neurons firing up and interconnecting, and that joined the dots. And I came up with this poem based on the hymn Rock of Ages. So it's in 4 verses. Unfortunately, in the email that got sent out, that the gap between the last 2 verses is missing, but I'll just read it out. Tweet of sages made for me, let me hide my bile in thee. Let the fire and the rage fill the ether, not the page. You are indeed perfection, a place to hide misdirection. Fools, my words you heed, satisfying my selfish need. Could my evil no respite know? Could my torrent forever flow? No other outlet could I find. Twitter, you are my biggest find. All that is in my heart to you I bring. You let my loathsome words sing. I come to you for release, safe to say my piece. Foul I to the platform fly, let me seethe or I will die. When I come near to death, when I'm close to that final breath, I know that I am done. I will have reached everyone. Tweets of sages made for me, let me hide my bile in thee.
Great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, it's certainly got some fairly emotive phrases in there, so quite interesting from my perspective. Must admit, I'm not a Twitter user or a Twitter fan, although I probably should be, because we're trying to get social media going, but certainly not from that direction. But yeah, I think it is a challenge. You know, social media has that anonymity where people think they can just simply say what they want to say when they want to say it and how they want to say it, without consideration of what the message is that's going out. But yeah, I don't know. Vinay, you're obviously a great Twitter user, so I think.
I actually really don't like Twitter, because I think that there are very few people out there that use it for informative and a good purpose, I think. And I think Ed's poem is just so sarcastic. It's just, I found it amazing. It's exactly what I think of Twitter, is that people just believe they can write whatever they like, and they've got this anonymity where nothing will sort of touch them because they're just putting it out there, and there's very little restraint. And Rock of Ages is my favorite hymn, so I definitely picked up the link between this and Rock of Ages. And yeah, I think it sort of sums Twitter up for me personally. It sums Twitter up perfectly. And thank you, Ed, for sharing it.
Great, thanks, Vinay. Right, Jasper, let's get across to you. What have you tweeted this morning that didn't fall in line with what Ed's poem is saying?
I know I normally say morning. I know I normally say I don't have much to say. But this morning I really don't have much to say because I don't tweet. I don't even know how to do it. And the only information I have about tweeting or tweeting is when I see some other headline in the newspapers about this person that said this in Twitter, or someone got in trouble because of this. So I can only echo what Vinay said about people think they can use social media as they want and then come off scot-free. And we've seen lately how what you say, and once it's said, it's recorded for you, also can't stop the circulation of it. I think that's the scary part of it, that what people don't realize is that once you let it out for even one, it can have a viral effect and you can't stop it. You can never get it back. So I don't know how to tweet, and I don't see the value of it. So that's all I can say.
Great, Jasper. I think you summed it up exactly for me in that one word, twit. I think it's yeah. I think there are too many twits on Twitter, so that is definitely problematic in my opinion. Anyway, Trevor Carty, I'm not too sure what the publication and chain of command has got to do with Twitter, but yeah, maybe you can tell us.
Yeah, morning everybody. What a beautiful weekend's weather we've had here, Ed. You don't understand. So my kids call me you twit face, and I'm not sure what that means, but I know that it's because I can't face Twitter, and I don't know where it is. I don't know how it is. You know me, I can ramble. Hey? They tell me I can only do that in like 36 letters or 2 words or something stupid. So that sounds like something out the window for a start. But yeah, this chain of publication is something we really just got to be aware of. And publication is deemed to be publication as soon as it has been shared with one person. Now, it doesn't matter what that is, whether it's a photograph or whether it's a TwitFace story or a Facebook thingamabob or an Insta, whatever they call it. Once you've sent it into a public domain or you've posted it to someone else, you enter into this thing called the publication chain of command, and it can only get you in trouble. A very good friend of mine wrote a book, Don't Video Yourself Having Sex. Pretty much the same thing. Just, put it in your mind, don't say it, don't put it out there, do whatever you have to. Use your ropes and your huskies and all that good stuff, but just don't put it out in the public domain. So I don't know about Twitter. I can hear a tweeting. I don't know, but I have no idea. So sorry, I can't add much value there except for publication and chain of command.
Oh, thanks for that, Trevor. I think that's an important. An important point, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, I watched a documentary that actually brought that into very sharp focus for a young, I think, I'm not sure if he was an Irishman or an Englishman, but he was about to head across to America on a great adventure, his first time ever across the little pond between those two nations, and he put out this tweet on his Twitter channel, saying, hey guys, I'm off to America, I'm going to blow the place up. And, he was off to have this great party over in America and all the rest of it. And he landed at the airport in America and the FBI arrested him immediately. And he went through absolute hell for the next 4 days. His holiday totally destroyed. It was just an idiom that he had used that, he was going to go and have a party and really enjoy himself and all the rest of it. And the AI bots of the FBI picked this up and saw him as a terrorist, and they locked him up. And simple as that. It's one doesn't realize just how these social media channels are being monitored and analyzed by things that don't necessarily understand the intent of what your message was. In that same program, I saw a story about again in the UK, a group of people who would put together little plays and things like that. So I forget the name of the group, but you know, a little private group that used to put on their own little shows and their plays and all the rest of it. And there was, I think, an upcoming royal event of some sort in the UK. I don't know if it was a wedding or a march or a whatever, you know, all these funny people do with their crowns on their heads and things. And so this little group had put out a message on their private WhatsApp group that they were going to do this semi-little sort of protest piece on the side of the street, you know, fairly harmless thing. And they all got locked up as well and arrested before the event because of the potential perceived threat to the royal parade or whatever it was. So yeah, one has to be extremely careful with what you put out on social media. And of course, we have a couple of our own local celebrities that put out some very stupid things on social media and found themselves in jail for a couple of years as a result of it. So yeah, be careful. So all right, Cecile, are you a tweeter?
No, so I'm going to beat Jasper this morning. So I know even less about Twitter. I have never done a tweet in my life. I don't know, someone must have registered me for Twitter because from time to time I get a little thing that says, here's a tweet that's done by this or whatever. And then I'm curious. And then I think, okay, let me see what it is. But then it asks me to sign in and I don't know what my passwords are. So then I just pass it by anyway. The only thing that I really know about Twitter is that I hear that Helen Ziller often gets herself into trouble with Twitter. They say when she puts her finger on that phone or whatever to tweet, she loses her mind because she puts all strange things and whatever blabs her mouth off, which I find fascinating from an intelligent woman like Helen Ziller. But let's get back to Ed's poem. Ed, that if I didn't know anything, well, if I do not know anything about Twitter, that your poem now just kind of made me realize what Twitter is all about. Maybe it's just from your perspective, but well-written poem, clever. It wants to make you want go and read Twitters because for the file or the content that it has or not, it makes you curious to go and read it. But well written, it reads beautifully. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Cecile. Yeah, I mean that raises another interesting thought in my mind: is what happens if someone does actually create an account that looks like it's you and ostensibly is you, or you have an account and it gets actually hijacked and then used to put out you know, these things that could get you into trouble. Can you get into trouble? Somebody's done identity theft and has picked up your Twitter account or your Facebook account or your Google account, Jasper. Still try and link to you on Google account, and it's some lady's name there, so I think you really got to watch out for that one. But yeah, so can you get into trouble for that? I don't know. Anyway, so Donovan, are you a tweeter?
Morning, Evan. Morning, everyone. And I'm not a tweeter at all. I'm actually struggling to make use of it. I think my number of followers has remained the same for years, so I'm not getting any success there. So what I'm doing, I'm just getting information from there. I'm following people like Tim Noakes, because of the health advice, etc. And then here and there, I just look at like your news kind of tweets. Yeah, that's all I'm using it for at this stage. Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Donovan. Yeah, well, at least somebody in this group is using it. Lee, are you using it?
Yeah, actually, I like Twitter. I like the people that I'm following. It's a great, if I need just the headlines, I can just scroll quickly just to see what's happening. There are a lot of South African politicians on Twitter, and I follow Tito Mboweni as one. And he's fantastic. This is our finance minister, Edward. And I think, to get, it just gives you a personal, and it might be a facade. I completely get that. But there was a period of time where he was posting what he cooked for supper that night. And it was just a natural way of just getting to know somebody that's normally too far out of your reach to connect with. And I think that's what something like Twitter or social media is attempting, you know, the idea behind it. And I understand, as I say, it could very well be a facade, but I do think there is that certain sense of connecting with somebody. But yeah, I mean, there are many aspects to Edward's poem that I'd like to raise that I thought was fascinating. The one is, the question that I had is social media the problem? Is it the platform that invites this behavior, that I can say what I like without indemnity, that I can be the worst version of myself, saying something that I would never say to somebody's face, but I can type it and send it as if it has no effect on the other person and no effect on me. So is it the platform that invites that behavior? Or were people always like that? Have people always had it within them to express the worst part of themselves, or their vilest judgments, and we just, because we haven't had a platform like social media that amplifies those statements for the world to see, it's sort of been in little pockets. And I think about, you know, gossip in villages, and, you know, so-and-so saying something about so-and-so, and how people are maligned wrongly, and how that gets blown out of proportion, and how that is just a human trait that we're now seeing multiplied because of social media. So that's a question that I've had. And then the other thing that I found fascinating, Edward, is this connection between the Twitter and religion, and that it's a hymn, and that it's based on a really traditional, you know, religious focus on God, and it raised a couple of questions for me. Does that mean that we have a sense that Twitter, social media has become like a God to us, that it becomes the place that we go to? It's our first place, it's our first port of call. I'm looking at my glasses case, but it's actually my phone that I was looking for. That this is where the focus of my faith, my trust, who I, you know, how I want to express myself is suddenly now being transferred from a traditionally religious platform or place to a social media platform. Has it become a God to us? So that's the other question I have. And then I also think, is that what we think about religion? That it's this place of expressing this awfulness of humanity. And you know, I want to say, no, surely not. Then I look at what religion has done in the world, and how people have expressed themselves, and caused so much pain and heartache and hurt in the name of religion. And then I think, well, maybe Ed has a point to use a religious platform to say something about how people express themselves. Yeah, so it gave me a lot of food for thought. So thank you, Edward. And I'm glad Trevor doesn't agree with me. So we can have a lovely discussion.
Great, thanks, Lee. So all I'm going to say is, Trevor, flip it.
Lee, I absolutely agree with you. I don't agree with Ed. My barbs are going to be pointed at Ed. And listen, I came in late into this forum because I had connection problems on this end, obviously. But I thought, so I haven't really heard the direction of the conversation, but my initial thought, and I'm sure Ed will appreciate this, that the writing of that poem seemed to have come from a dark side. And for me, it really just said we all have positive and negative feelings almost on a daily basis. But I think that was written from a dark side. And just listening, what I did catch here is my thinking about technology is that it reveals you or it exposes you. And so, Lee, as you were talking, there were a couple of thoughts went through my mind that technology is utilized by individuals the same way that a knife is utilized differently by a chef and a murderer. So if we go back to the basic principle of a knife and what you can use it for, if the murderer picks up that blooming knife, then that, now I don't want to use dark side because this is not what I'm saying about Ed. So it's this good or bad that's in all of us all the time. And just the power of technology for me is vested in this Twitter, which I think is now almost an old-fashioned form of technology that we are not using to actually promote the good stuff that we want to get out there. And I think the argument is about the individuals who actually promote the base stuff. So look what Twitter did for two presidents, in Obama and in what's this guy's name that's just fallen off the wagon? I think his name is Trump. That these guys got to their positions because of the use of that particular technology, the highest office in the world. And then, of course, it exposed different sides of those individuals and the organizations behind them. And if I go back and think about how people actually utilize technology, Orson Welles, War of the Worlds. I mean, I talked about the Moody Blues, and I love Justin Pinder behind the War of the Worlds as an LP. But Orson Welles, I think it was about 1938 thereabouts, who actually was on, was it one of the radio stations, and he was talking about the Martians are actually coming, and the whole world collapsed because they were all listening and they thought this was a broadcast of actual Martians landing on Earth. And that just shows the power of technology. And powerful technology can be used for good or bad. All I want, Lee, is you to, I was almost going to use the term blow up, but I'm hoping that no one in the US, I want you to blow up the world with good messages from wisdoms that gets over, reaches over 1 million people on a daily basis via Twitter. So I'm right behind you. The idiots expose themselves by their use of Twitter. So I don't know, Ed, if you'd like to comment on what dark side you were experiencing as that actually got you to write that poem.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, Ed, I think over to you.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating discussion. I think for me that there are two main things. One, I'm surprised how many people don't really know about Twitter, because as Trevor Nell said, you know, it's one of the most powerful communication channels there are. And it's used by presidents of the United States. It's used by the Prime Minister. It's used by governments. It's used by brands. It's also a force for good. You know, it's been used by environmental campaigners. It's been used by equal rights campaigners. It's very, very powerful tool. And a lot of companies use Twitter as their customer service channel. So I'm surprised how, and I started to think it was a South African thing, but I suddenly realized it wasn't, because it is used in South Africa and it used to use a lot. And also, the hymn was about a Twitter troll. It wasn't about Twitter itself, it was about a troll. And trolls are interesting things. They don't tend to tweet on their own account. They latch on to something that a celebrity has said or someone that's got lots of followers. And that way, by commenting on their post, they get an awful lot of coverage. So it's really around the troll that I was talking about. And I'm really glad that Lee picked up with the connection with religion, because that's how it all came about. And it was all down to Trevor Cartney's neurons firing away, because for some reason the two connected. The hymn, and I think it was the fact that, you know, the guy was a bishop, and therefore I was thinking Church of England. I was thinking about hymns because that's the way that people used to communicate. That was the mass sort of message in the old days, was the hymns. This particular hymn was written by a guy called, and he's got a fantastic name, the Reverend Augustus Toplady. And he was walking through the Mendip Hills, which are in the southwest of England. And he was going through this gorge, and he was caught in a storm. And he sheltered in a cleft in the rock, which gave rise to the first line of the poem. Sorry, the hymn, Rock of Ages, cleft for me. And he hid in there. And that's what trolls do, they hide. And the original troll was a Scandinavian legend of these creatures that lived amongst the rocks and the caves. So there was the two things, the trolls in the cave, the vicar in the cave. And he was, the bad in him was being washed away. And that's what the song Rock of Ages is all about. He equated the water, because I think one of the things says, let the water and the blood, and it's talking about washing him clean. And that's why I kind of thought, well, you know, there's the connection. And yes, we have almost become, these things have become our religion. You go into some of the Asian countries, you cannot prize these away from people's hands. They'll sit 8 around a table, not talking to each other, because they're going. So that's what it's about. And for me, you know, Twitter's full of good stuff, tweets of sages. They're the good stuff. But the trolls hide themselves in there, and they come out with some, and Lee was quite right, some really vile comments. And there is a dark side to people, a nasty side to people. And I think perhaps in the old days, we wouldn't have said it, because if you said it in the pub, talking to people in the pub, you'd have got punched on the nose. But of course, sitting in your room somewhere in front of a screen, you can say whatever you like without concern about the consequences. And some people have committed suicide because of what people have said on Twitter about them. So you can hide it all in there. They're keyboard warriors. So connection back to our poets and warriors things. And they often mislead people, the anti-vaxxers, you know, the conspiracy theorists. So fools my words you heed. People actually listen to what some of the rubbish is. And it just comes out. It's constant. It's constant. It's out. It's out. It's out. There's just this torrent. And I think for a lot of people, it's release for them they didn't have before. Whereas before they might have perhaps gone to church, gone to confession or whatever it was. Now it's their way of purging themselves by just getting this bile from out of them. But it's all pervasive. It's there forever. People have put inappropriate things on in the past and lost their jobs later on when they become a politician and they suddenly found that in the past they made racist comments. It's there forever. If you say something down the pub, someone might forget it. But you put it on social media, it will be found. A journalist will go through all the comments and find it. A researcher will go through all the comments and find it. When you apply for a job, people will go through your social media and find what you said. So yeah, Twitter's a great, great thing, but I think it also it allows people to be their loathsome selves without any comeback. Because if they're just sitting in their room, not wanting to be a politician or a great businessman or anything, no one's ever going to get them. They can say whatever they like without anything coming back to them. And then they can hide in their little cave. So that's what went through my mind. And it amazed me how I'd made those connections. As soon as the guy said tweet of sages, I'd made all those connections without realizing it. And it wasn't until actually I sat down and I got a bit frustrated because I couldn't remember how the hymn Rock of Ages went. And I had to go and look it up. I couldn't remember all the words, even though it's one of the most famous hymns there are. I think it's one of the top 10, I think. And as soon as I started looking at the words, everything fell into place. And if you look at my poem and the original, there are bits in there left on purpose so that people recognize that link between the religious hymn and the poem. So they kind of get this almost like connection between the dark side and the good side, religion, and how perhaps social media of all sorts become our new religion. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I think great insights into what brought the whole thing together. Trevor Carty, you were shaking your head vigorously there at one point in time. Are you muted, Trev? You muted? Can't hear a thing? Don't want to hear a thing. Okay. You're not saying on social media because you don't want to be heard.
Ed, you can go into your cave and you can think you can hide. But once you've put it out in publication, my friend, you are fully accountable. And the state, if necessary, will be the one to drag you out of your cave. And you will come up onto a public platform. It's called the Court of Law. And in the Court of Law, you will be finger wagged at and you will be appropriately dealt with. So don't think because you have a cave, you can go and hide with your toot face. It's not going to happen.
I think unless you actually break any laws, you're quite safe. Yeah, and
let's break any laws, but breaking a law is as easy as you saying that you don't like my green stripe in my very expensive Hurley shirt today, and you're defaming my character, and I take that personally, and for that reason, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to drag you over the coals. I've got a very good lawyer. He just loves to see how much time and effort we can put into as little as possible to get as much as possible out of every lawsuit. And we will track you down in your cave, because even caves, when you have your tweet face thing on, have got a GPS thing, and it says, oh, look there's the cave. And if you're the American intelligence, you don't even send that. You just send a drone and you throw a little bit of whatever they throw in there, and pooh, no more tweet face in the cave. So be careful. Just be careful.
Must say, I don't like your shirt.
I recorded that, so now you're in trouble.
Defaming his shirt, Edward. Don't listen to this guy.
Okay. All right. Well, nobody's listening to anybody. That's all good. So it doesn't really matter what you say, where you say it, and how you say it. So, so Lee, what are we going to say tomorrow?
Well, I think there are two things, and it's interesting when you're discussing a poem. There are always two sides of it, isn't it? There's the content of the poem and what that elicits, and then there's the creative process of what it took to create that that art or that piece of communication and poetry in the first place. And so that's where I'm wondering where to go, you know. So and I think maybe, you know, it would just explain so well this, you know, this idea came and then this idea, and then it's bringing all these neurons together in this point of where you're then able to bring all these thoughts together and then express it in a particular way. And so I'm wondering if we don't talk about the creative process tomorrow, and just what does it take to be creative? We're in a time in our world where creativity is needed more than any other time. And so what does it take to be creative? I think that's how are you creative? What are some of the elements of creativity, and how can we be more creative?
Great, thanks, Lisa. Sticking to the religious theme, I think go forth and be creative. I won't say procreate. So have a great day further, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow. Go on, cheers.
Thanks. Bye.